How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to 14P Fantasy. My name is Preston, and today we'll be taking a look at some of the best ADP values for the quarterback position for best ball tournaments over on Underdog. But real quick, before we get started, if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button below. Helps us out, helps us to keep pushing out more fantasy content for you all. But with that said, let's go ahead and dive on into some ADP values at the quarterback position. And this will be a 4-part series. I'll be taking a look at the best ADP values for each position. So be on the lookout for those other videos when they come out. But like I said, today is all about quarterbacks. And there's no better way to start that off than with the current QB 11 over on Underdog, Jalen Hurts. And Hurts finished as the QB 8 last year, but more importantly, Hurts finished as the QB 6 on a points per game basis. And that doesn't even really take into account any sort of fall off or downward trend in production from his legs that he may have experienced over the last few games of the season when he was dealing with that high ankle injury. But I just really love Hurts here because of his massive rushing upside. We saw how he's more than capable of being in that top 5 discussion. It's more than capable of him to have that in his range of outcomes to be finishing as a top 5, even top 3 fantasy quarterback, just because his rushing upside is so elite. And that's the type of ceilings and spike weeks we're chasing in best ball. And realistically, I think the reason why Hurts' ADP is still sitting down here at QB 11 is because of the uncertainty around Philadelphia addressing the quarterback position. You know, they've always been rumored to, draft a quarterback, trade for a quarterback. And well, first of all, with all of the trade quarterbacks being off the board between Rodgers, Russ Wilson, and Deshaun Watson, and more importantly, with the most recent trade between the Saints and Philadelphia, essentially converting one of their 2022 first round picks into a 2023 first round picks, I think it's pretty clear that Philadelphia at least is not addressing the quarterback position this year. I don't know about 2023, but I think 2022, it's safe to say that it's Jalen Hurts' year. And even more importantly, I wouldn't be shocked, and I'm probably more so expecting it, in all honesty, that the Eagles are going to use their 2022 first round pick to at least somehow address and help improve the offense one way or the other, whether it's drafting an O-lineman, drafting another wide receiver, even if they're preparing for the future for the 2023 quarterback with whoever they take, that's still helping Hurts for right now, and it's still helping him for this season. So I'm definitely all in on Hurts here. I think he's a phenomenal value, and he's way too underpriced here. Next up, we have Trevor Lawrence, who's currently going as the QB 18 over on Underdog. And as you can see below, he finished as the QB 23 last year because, well, it's not such a big secret anymore that quarterbacks don't always perform too well in their rookie season. But I'm not, willing to at least buy into what happened last year for Lawrence. I'm willing to at least sort of reset the button for him and kind of temper my expectations going into 2022. And that's because, first of all, Lawrence had one of the biggest donkeys as his head coach. I mean, Urban Meyer is an absolute idiot. And at this point in time, I just can't help to wonder if Urban Meyer actually did anything at all to at least help Trevor Lawrence improve and progress and be ready for his rookie year. So at least now having a somewhat competent coach, at least, I think that certainly helps Trevor Lawrence just in his natural progression going into year 2 and helps him prepare at least to, be a competent quarterback as well. And they've also been making some improvements to the supporting cast as well. I mean, these improvements aren't necessarily outstanding, awesome improvements, like getting Tyreek Hill or something like that. But you have to think about what Trevor Lawrence had to work with last year, especially after losing DJ Chark. I mean, there were weeks where, Laquan Treadwell and whomever else were leading the Jaguars as their number one receiver. So getting Christian Kirk, getting Evan Ingram, not too bad of moves. And, even Travis Etienne is an underrated pass catcher. So having him back as well, that doesn't at least catapult the Jaguars into some sort of top 10 personnel conversation, but it's definitely a step up from what they had the year before. And not to mention, Trevor Lawrence was the 8th overall quarterback in terms of total rushing yards last year. So we were kind of aware that he had some mobility coming out, and we just didn't know exactly how much that would translate to the NFL. But given all of the circumstances he went through last year, I would say that sort of rushing production definitely gives me some sort of optimism and confidence going into this next year. I think he can even kind of take another step forward in terms of his overall rushing production. So I'm buying into Trevor Lawrence here at this ADP. And last but not least, we have Ryan Tannehill, who's currently going as the QB 20 after finishing last year as the QB 13. Now, honestly, the QB 13 doesn't really even lend itself that much to Tannehill's season. It was definitely more of a average to disappointing season for Tannehill. But, we only have to look back to 2020 to see Tannehill as the QB 8 overall. And the difference between last year and 2020, I think, was just overall the passing efficiency. And the passing efficiencies was really derived from the injuries to both A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, as well as Julio Jones as well, because really after those guys, they had no one else. Ryan Tannehill was really lacking in a supporting cast outside of those players. So getting both those players as an A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry back, I think will certainly help Tannehill. I honestly really like the additions they made with Robert Woods and Austin Hooper. I think that just helps kind of bring somewhat of a balance to not having complete stars and scrubs sort of personnel package that the Titans were essentially throwing out there every week last year. And between 2020 and 2021, and each of those seasons, Tannehill managed to rush for at least 250 yards and 7 touchdowns. So the rushing production is still there for Tannehill, which is really a big driver of his fantasy ceiling and spike weeks. So, certainly looking to take a bet on Tannehill and just, hoping he regresses back to that more efficient passing state, because the rushing production is there. So all he needs to do is take a slight step forward again in terms of his overall passing production. But that's going to do it for us over here this week on 14 Personnel. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll have more videos coming out looking at ADP values for running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends as well. So with that, I'll see you guys next time.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.